Morning, everybody. Welcome to your green lighted session. Green light is a green tea, and it's got some history behind it, both a modern and an older history. Before we talk a lot about that, I want to talk about two things that are going on here. First off, I did mention before that we were going to cut back on ordering this year. Turns out the scope of the cutback isn't what I thought it was going to be. We are cutting back, but it's more about quantity than varietals, because we are going to get a number of new varietals. A lot of weird stuff has happened already this year because we've gotten stuff that's come sailing in to the shop and without a sample. And that's not the usual way we do. In fact, that's not the way at all we do business. Nonetheless, it's from farmers that we have a long history, long and productive history with. And essentially what they've said to us is this is a no risk opportunity for us. In other words, they're sending us a couple pounds of tea, especially of the higher grade stuff. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. But that's not the way we roll. And everything they've sent us so far is unbelievable. So we are still going to get a number of varietals more than what we initially planned for. So that's one thing. The second thing we're doing in conjunction with that is we're beginning to take a few teas from the vault, so to speak, and make them available. Not widely available, but for the tea friends. And so you're getting a chance, you will be getting a chance to try some stuff in the shop. It won't be inexpensive, but it will be stuff that you won't be able to get anywhere else. So that's upcoming. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is the term that you frequently hear BJ use called, oh, that's market tea. That's kind of a synonym for that's not your highest grade tea. That is more like it's a middle grade or less tea. And so when she uses that, I know that sometimes people don't exactly catch the drift of that. But truly what she means is imagine the Chinese market. You go into a mall, you've got a tea shop there, and it has stuff in the front of the shop. It has tea leaves in the front of the shop. You go in, and generally speaking, you're not going to purchase, and especially this group wouldn't purchase the stuff in the front of the shop. We never purchase stuff in the front of the shop. We always go back and say, well, okay, what else do you have? And then we really look at that stuff. The stuff in the front of the shop is generally the market tea. So it's people who come in, they don't have a real understanding of the tea business. They don't have a real understanding of the scope of what's available. And they're buying on price alone. And that is what she categorizes as market tea. What are some of the signs of market tea? Blends. So for example, we had somebody come and bring us a tea cake yesterday and asked us to help identify the tea cake. So we spent some time looking in the secret places because there's always inside the cake, there's a piece of paper. Sometimes that has a lot of useful information. And in fact, this one actually did. On the back of the label, and this was a raw black, by the way. On the back of the label, there was an extremely useful piece of information that when I had been sent original pictures, because it was on the fold, I didn't see it. And so the result is I'm looking and thinking, this is of indeterminate origin. And I'm not used to that with the labeling, because labeling, especially for fully fermented and raw blacks, usually gets it down to a specific area within a region. Well, this was no exception. It actually did, because when you unfolded that paper, okay, so it's from close to Munghai. Okay, but it also clearly said it was a blend of several of the mountains tea from that area. So, okay, now we understand. When it's a blend, unless it's a commemorative blend or a blend for the central government, in other words, a gift blend, you are not going to get anything more than market tea when it's a blend. If it's gift blend, and by gift blend, there's this so-called term leaping. So if it is intended as a national government gift to another national government, obviously they're going to put together an incredible combination of something. And those type of gifts are not market tea. In fact, those type of gifts are priced way out of the market. So most of the tea in Sophie's is not market tea. When we open the online shop for Japan, most of that will be market tea, because we have two different objectives. But I want you to understand the difference between the two, because this term gets used a lot here, and I can see people hearing it, but I also realize they're not understanding it. So let's morph into green light, because green light is definitely not market tea. So what's in contrast to market tea? What terminology could we all use and you right away would understand, oh, that's a code word for something special? Craft tea. So if you say craft tea or crafted tea, either of those terms, that means that there's handcraft going into that. And that means there's details going into that. And that's really important for you to understand, because at that level, that's a whole different price point. It's a whole different experience, tasting experience. And you'll see this morning, green light is no exception. Green light is from Anhuei Province, and it's from the eastern part. Oh, that's not right. It's from the western part of Anhuei Province, the Dabie Mountains. So was that originally from that area? And the answer is no. It was really discovered in Zhejiang Province. In Zhejiang Province, an agricultural scientist who was looking for a way to create a new varietal, hybridize a new varietal. So think about this a minute. When you're a scientist and you're trying to hybridize a new varietal, is your hope to get something low class or market material and create more market material? The answer would be no, because there's plenty of market material in the market. It's not like, even under these bad climate conditions, the market material is still readily available, and it's readily available at a low price. But as soon as you talk about handcrafting, that gets scientists' attention. because they know that the handcrafted teas are under pressure. They're under attack because as the environment changes, there's less really good stuff produced. And it's harder for farmers to make the mental decision. Yeah, I'm going to take this quarter acre or this half acre, and I'm going to use this handcrafted measure. It's great when year in and year out, the harvest is coming in predictably. Yeah, I know I can make great stuff. I know that next year I'm going to be able to make great stuff. And I can continue to expand that market and make more money. So the farmers actually have an incentive to set aside. That's when things, in quotes, are normal. But we aren't living in normal times. We're living in the earth under pressure times. And the earth under pressure times is producing different terroirs. And those terroirs are influencing outcome. So already in the 90s, you have these scientists thinking, hey, I want to become famous. I want to be well known. Let me see if I can find some sort of original bush that's not widely on the market, hybridize it, get it to something very famous, and then become known throughout the tea world in China. So does this remind you of a story? This is like the Jinjunmei story, the early spring story, where the farmers, not the farmers, the scientists accidentally created a varietal that took off like wildfire. And to this day, for those who are still alive out of that hybridization, in other words, the scientists who did it, 2 out of the 3 are still alive. And they're famous beyond every other scientist. You mentioned their names, or you mentioned the opportunity to sit with them. Oh yeah, I want to do that. Give me the seat next to them because I want to talk about the process. So that's why from the 90s forward, there's been this desire to have the next great accident. So this particular farmer found tea trees, wild tea trees growing in Zhejiang province. He took leaves and buds from these, and then over a period of time, hybridized them into what is currently green light. So let's think about that a minute. I gave you an opening which said, if you're going to do this type of thing, you want to do it so you become rich and famous. So you want it to be a handcrafted. You're not doing this to do a market tea. This is no exception with this scientist. He took the tea and then actually completed the hybridization with other tea species out of Anhuei Province. And so this is how green light came into existence. And this is why it's a crafted tea. It's only really grown in the mountains in western Anhui Province. And it's only, it's one of those teas. So this is a peculiarity of this tea. If you ask a Chinese tea drinker, hey, you ever had green light? Green light, what's that? So there's 2 things that are a little different about that answer, right? Because if you ask the same tea aficionado, hey, you know, within the mountain, in the Wu Mountains, there's this tea that grows in Horsehead Depression. Have you heard of that? And all of them your tea aficionados. Oh, yes, I've heard of that. And yes, I want some of that. But this is so small craft and so relatively isolated, most Chinese haven't heard of it. Okay, so that's one thing which leads to this premium price. Because obviously it's not growing everywhere. Chinese market, except in Anhuei, really isn't very aware of it. Chinese market in Anhuei is aware of it because Anhuei is a huge green tea producing province. It's also a huge red tea producing province. It's famous for almost all the teas that it produces because it's not, especially in the green tea area, it's not market tea. It's craft tea by and large. Now, you notice I modified that, didn't I? Because in the red tea area, you do have a considerable amount of market tea that gets exported, but not in the green tea area. So, handcrafted, that means more steps. So what kind of steps are we talking about here? Let's see. Do we pick the tea? Oh, yes, we pick the tea. Usually a bud. Oh, and by the way, are the tea bushes really these short, pudgy bushes? Or are they more like stringy small trees? I'm glad you asked. Stringy small trees would be the right answer. And where do they pick? They pick at the top. And so they're really looking for bud primary, single small leaf secondary. That's what this pick is supposed to be. They, on purpose, very deliberately sun dry it to a certain degree. Now, in the past, remember, I've told you with some of these other teas, oh, let's pick and get it into the process as fast as possible. We'll leave it out there in the sun for a little bit because, yeah, we want some moisture to go away so that the tea leaves are pliable. But boy, oh boy, we're in a hurry to get this thing done because you want zero oxidation. In this case, this is not in this particular example, this is not the case. For green light, they actually do want it to have a specific smell. And therefore, when they sun dry it a little bit longer than what we would think is normal for green tea. Then they do the rush job. Oh, rush job is not fair. They do the next steps, which are to apply high heat, denature that enzyme, and instead of forming the shape during the high heat process, they wait until afterwards and they roll. They sort, and then they make a little bit more beautiful if the first rolling wasn't satisfactory. And at the end, they bake. So it is a simple process, but they pay much more attention to detail too. And again, this is a hybridized tea. What else, aside from green tea, is this used for? It's also used for yellow teas. Since yellow teas are harder to make, not very many farmers actually use this for yellow tea, but there are a few. Do we have green light as a yellow tea? We do not. That's much harder to find, but it's in that same area. And the farmer who actually produces this knows how to produce the yellow tea version of it. But that's a lot of trouble. It's already a lot of trouble. with this, but the price is right. So at the end of the day, there's this trade-off. It's Anhuei, small crop, handcrafted, great price. And this is what the embedded aficionados look for. What do I mean by embedded? So you got normal aficionados. You know, they read all the magazines, they talk to each other. They may not be traveling as much. The embedded aficionados, yeah, they're listening to all the chatter over the internet, they're reading stuff, but they're traveling from farm to farm to farm, and they're inquiring. And what are they inquiring? They're saying, hey, any of the brethren doing anything interesting that I should know about? Oh, yeah, 20 miles this direction, you go over there, he's got some interesting handcrafted tea. The embedded aficionados do what we do. They go from farm to farm and they make inquiries and they ingratiate themselves. We don't have to ingratiate ourselves, we're well known. And they then get a chance to taste this stuff. And if they like it, farmer will sell it to them direct. It's really interesting because there is this roving small subset of the aficionado class in China that does this, and they go from farm to farm. Why is it? I mean, there's a lot of things that differentiate us from every other tea purveyor outside of China. Let me give you another one, and that is we associate with aficionados. We have fun. That's the fun part of what we do. We drop in on them. They're always happy to see us. They want to know what secrets we've unearthed. And more importantly, we just sit around and talk enough until they spill some of the secrets they've unearthed. And once they spill, we pounce and we explore. Because these guys and gals are doing exactly, well, not exactly what we're doing, but they are looking in the same discerning manner to find stuff, to find tea leaves, to find varietals that nobody else is experiencing or few others are experiencing. They want to be first and they want that special stuff. So they're people after our own heart. This is how the tea boss, the tea master, Bijou and I are built. We're looking for that special stuff. And who are we looking for? Well, we're looking for ourselves, but we're mostly looking for you because we know that that's one of the things you're looking for out of this tea shop. All right, enough of a prelude. The tea master has been sending steam signals that I'm about to run out of time. So rather than completely run out of time, it is with exceedingly high expectations that I bring forth the exquisitely beautiful, skillful, wonderful tea master.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. So we do, green tea or non-yellow tea. Yes.
Okay, you notice her tableau while she's collecting herself from that introduction. You notice her tableau has 6 cups. That's because she's going to make 3 cups of tea. You're only making 1 cup of tea, so you would only have 2 cups. So don't be confused. You know, she's got 3 strainers. You don't need 3 strainers. 1 strainer, 2 cups is enough. The advantage for her, aside from being able to make 3 cups at one time, is that as she dissipates the steam, aerates the water, she'll be able to do this faster. Now, in the instructions, I think I may have made a mistake and I just caught it as I was standing here thinking about it. I think I said 175
Yeah.
degree water.
清洁
That's a
清洁
mistake.
清洁
It should have been 170. So I apologize for that. We sent 5 grams, 2 minutes. Everything else is right about that. The 175 is not. This needs a little bit cooler. So some of you inquiring minds, by the way, have brought to our attention that we're bad measurers. And we already know we're bad measurers. Why are we bad measurers? And what is it that we're measuring badly? We always, when we err in terms of tea leaf measurement, we always do and a little bit more. Because we know that in the process of sending and storing, there may be some degradation because of temperature, and therefore, and a little bit more is important. Try and keep it as fresh as what you would get here. So thank you for bringing that up, because sometimes you get 5.5 grams. And these are not accidents. It seems like we're bad measures, and it seems like it's me at work all the time, but turns out that's not the case. All right, so what you saw her do first was to heat up the cups. And heating up the cups, you can use any temperature between 212 and 170. It really doesn't matter. Hotter sometimes is actually better, but most of us at home aren't set up to do that. It's easy here because we've got 200 degree water that's already preheated, 175 that's already preheated, so flexibility. If all you have is the 170 or 175, that's fine. Zero problem. Use that. Zero problem. You notice there's just a certain rhythm that Beeger goes through. And it's not in a hurry. Not too slow, but just steady. Paying attention to details. Being present. Does this mean your being present is the same speed as Bijou being present? No. Everybody has a different being present speed. However, if you're not present, then you have it's erratic, it's chaotic, and you don't want that. That's not good for tea. Present can be present at different speeds. Chaotic can only be chaotic all the way through for tea and the end result. All right, she's got all the cups heated. You're going to notice something about these leaves. And I'm not going to say it. I'm going to let you tell it to me. Because you're going to notice something quite distinctive. And I'll explain that once you tell me what it is. Puts the leaves in the heated cups, shakes them, try and get those tea leaves feeling some heat. Yeah, she pours the butter back into the kettle, and that's because the kettle has a spout. You can control the pour. Remembering this gets 2 pours, 2 steeps. 1 is 2 minutes, 2 is 1 minute. You really can't get much more than that if you're gonna get anything close to this original flavor.
One participant asks, one leaf is a different shape.
A little different shape, but that's not in particular what's different about this. Now, I'll give you a clue. The color of this is a little different. These are yellowish. And that's because some of the tea leaves, remember, this is a hybridized varietal. Some of the tea leaves actually come out yellow. So it's really interesting. All right, we set the timer for 2 minutes. And what we see here, yes, we make sure we heat the cup. Okay, and what we see is the tea leaves hanging out together at the top by and large. 1 or 2 floating down, but this is a hangout at the top group. And, oh my goodness, we smell something too. You'll have to tell me what it is we smell. Oh, and by the way, I'm glad that I'm talking about this. Take good notes on these, because this is an opening round of a set of 3 green teas. And so green light is the first. I believe satisfaction is second, and then tapestry is third. I might have those reversed, but those will be the 3 green teas that we cover over the next 3 weeks. And all of these are equally impressive in different ways. So this one, really, we got plugged into by the tea industry. Tea industry, the leaders of the tea industry know where many of the most interesting examples of tea are being done. And they plugged us into helping us find this. All right, 2 minutes is up. Not in a hurry, just steadily separating the leaves and the water. Remember, when it's your turn, you'll make 1 cup, not your cups. All right. So let's take a look at this color. This has a yellowish color to it, yellowish tinge to it. Very beautiful. Smelling everything here. Oh, I'm looking at stuff too. Woo. Very interesting. Okay. And I might enter the quality arena. Remember, contrary to what the instructions said, 175, we used 170, and that's what you should use as well. So I'm going to enter the quality arena. I'm going to take a 170-degree sip, coat the tongue, try to evaluate where the astringency is in the tea, and also evaluate the aftertaste. I certainly feel some astringency. I am thinking about the aftertaste. And remember, I'm going to think about the energetics as well. So I'm going to need another sip of this to narrow down what I'm concluding about that. I'm also going to think about what the flavor and aroma is on this one. This is so different than some of our other green teas. So different. Okay, I am now getting an aftertaste. I'm appreciating that. I'm still not quite yet understanding the energetics, but certainly flavor wise and aroma. We'll take one more sip. And remember, this exercise is not in a hurry. It is your turn though. Remember to go ahead and preset your timer for 2 minutes. Make sure all your equipment is clean. You know, it's really interesting because every time I think I have a favorite in green tea, and I actually go away imagining many times, yeah, okay, I'm down to these two. And it was funny, I came in this morning, and when I entered the door, I said to myself again, yeah, I'm down to these two green teas. I'm not gonna tell you which two, but it wasn't this one here. And because it's been a little bit since I've had this one, and I suddenly realized, oh my God, this is part of my triumvirate favorite. You know, it's funny because you get, maybe you don't, I get sometimes enamored with one or two or three teas and think that those are, yeah, my absolute favorites. And then as I start tasting again, I realize, no, this is not true. These things, these other teas also rise up to favorite status. Doesn't mean that I enjoy it as much, or that I enjoy it as often as, in quotes, a perceived favorite. But what it does mean is when I have these type of opportunities and share with you these tea tastings, all of a sudden I realize, well, this is exactly why we got this. And this is exactly why I should be drinking more of this. So the remarkable thing that you all are doing for me is helping me keep engaged with all the teas in here. I thank you all for that. All right, so you've heated the cup, you've added the 5 grams of tea leaves in there. You're gonna pour, if you have this set up, you're gonna pour the 170-degree water into the kettle with a spout and use that spout to pour on the sides. You're gonna hit your timer for 2 minutes. And appreciate the beauty, yes, heat up the recipient cup. And just appreciate the beauty of this, because these leaves, by the way, you may think that, oh, maybe they've aged. And the answer would be no, they haven't aged. When they came, they look like this with this little tinge of yellow in them. Again, through the hybridization process, this is why they look this way. And so there's nothing old about this. And when you taste, you'll know right away, because old green tea has a certain type of taste. This does not have that taste at all. This has a truly captivating taste. So the other thing about this environment, when you go to these mountains, the air, every time we've been there, is always crystal clear. If there is pollution in this area, we are unable to really detect it. There aren't factories in this area. Somehow they more or less have kept this area truly pristine. There's a reservoir at the foot of the mountains. It is absolutely beautiful. There are a few boats that go across, but it's not like it's crowded with boats. So you just don't have This tea, actually, as I'm drinking it, reminds me of how beautiful this place is and just the air quality and wow, it's just really fantastic. All right, your timer should have gone off. And you're rhythmically separating the tea leaves from the tea liquor. Hey. And now it's your chance and opportunity to enter the quality arena. Remember, not in a hurry. This is more about taking the time, figure out what you're tasting, take good notes, because over the next 3 weeks, remember, 3 very different green teas. You're going to have 3 extraordinary situations, 3 extraordinary tea tasting opportunities these next 3 weeks. One of the other things about this area where this is grown, there's lots of forests throughout this mountain. The tree doesn't grow, I'm sorry, the tea doesn't grow in the forest, but it grows right beside the forest. So you have influence. There are some places where it's field after field. You really don't see forest. Not this place. This place, there are fields, but they're interspersed with forest. And it's really kind of a unique environment. The watershed here, there is a ton of water. I think by keeping the forest semi-intact, that helps with the watershed. And there's specific requirements. This tea loves it at about 3,600 feet above sea level. It loves a soil that's about, oh, this is probably about 4 to 5 inches deep. And so the soil drains well. And again, it doesn't want to sit in water, but it does like to have frequent water. Yeah.
The warm and steeped leaves have a scent of umami, light malt, and a sweetness. That's the steeped leaves. The tea liquor has a very clean, round, light scent.
Steep leaves, umami, maltiness, and slight sweetness. And then the liquor itself has a clean, round taste. I like this comment for a lot of reasons. The Chinese would love this comment for a lot of reasons. One of the main reasons they love this comment is you identified in that smell of the leaves, that sweetness. This green tea, and normally you don't think of green tea as having a lot of sweetness. Well, this particular one has more sweetness. And by the way, you're all probably sitting there thinking to yourselves and wondering, okay, if it has more sweetness, I forgot. Does that mean more amino acids or fewer amino acids? And you're all on the right track. It means more amino acids. So this one, on average, has 3 times the amount of amino acids that other green teas have. So it's extraordinarily high. And that's why, this comment covered in the tasting, fresh and clean and mellow. Well, why is that? A lot. So you get the sweetness influence from the amino acids. You get that cleanness from the amino acids. And why again are there more amino acids? Well, at this elevation in the mountains, this particular varietal with the weather patterns, it's more amino acids develop. If you had fewer amino acids, you get more of the polyphenols, and therefore you wouldn't have the sweetness that you have with this.
This is smooth and almost buttery on the tongue, and yet there's a bit of astringency underneath it in the aftertaste.
A bit of astringency in the aftertaste, and the part that I really love about this is the butteriness on the tongue. Without question, this, unlike other greens, other greens don't usually have that butteriness. I mean, they can be clean and very good and very fresh, but you would hardly ever use the word buttery. This, it's extremely appropriate because while this tea you wouldn't say is oily, you would say it's got depth to it. And that depth gives you that sense of butteriness. And the butteriness, by the way, even though you didn't say this, I would go one more step. I would say this butteriness, you know how when you melt butter, sometimes there's a little bit of a hint, almost of toastiness, just a slight hint, maybe of nuttiness in that. And that's what I detected this.
Do the amino acids have any impact on the thick viscosity of the liquor? And if not, what influences that?
So this is a great question. Do amino acids influence the viscosity of the liquor? And if it's not the amino acids, what is doing that? And obviously a learned person has asked this question. I appreciate that. So, because I'm wearing linen, I have to say, I don't know. I wish I weren't. This is one of the few times I really wish I weren't wearing linen. Then I could just make up something and you would believe it. But the true answer is I don't know. But that's something I can go back and research, and I will research. And in next week's session, I'll address that because there may be some influence that I'm not immediately bringing to mind. Great question.
This is filling me with energy and motivation, says Rob.
Rob mentions filling him with energy and motivation. Yes. I love this comment. And my favorite green teas, of which this is one, tend to do that. They tend to give me lots of energy, but no jitteriness. Just that sense of, I'm getting revved up, but not over revved. Great comment. The other thing I will comment on, we know from the get-go that I have no self-control, but you notice how fast I'm going through this because it's that type of feeling. It feels like it wants to be drunk quickly. Yes.
Jennifer says, I'm really loving the grassy, grounding nature of the tea. It comes in a second after the first sip.
Grassy, grounding nature of the tea, Jennifer points out, and she says how quickly it strikes you after that first sip. And I really love that grounding nature because this is a feeling that I definitely get with this tea. It's not only I'm drinking it fast, it's not only it's buttery, it's not only I smelt the sweetness of it, but as an energetic, it absolutely is making me feel calm and energized at the same time. It's got Rob's you know, I'm revved up, but at Jennifer's, I'm calm as I'm revved up as well. Great.
Sue says this is like waking up while camping and seeing the sunrise.
Oh, I love this comment. Thank you, Sue. This one is, her comment is like waking up while camping and seeing the sunrise. And what a beautiful sentiment, because what it suggests is truly, it wakes you up in a gentle enough manner that it's really pleasant. It's grounding because sunrise is grounding. Great, great comment. All right. How am I doing? Oh, I'm doing okay. I love this tea, just in case you couldn't tell. And I had forgotten I love this tea until we went through this exercise. Because, and this is a tea I should be drinking every morning. It's that type of love for this tea. It's got body for me. It's got both the sweetness and umami. It's got that grounding nature and the rev up nature at the same time. Yeah, this is a good tea. So, take your good notes, put them away, because next week we're going to do another beautiful tea. And you'll have a chance through these 3 weeks to see a range of green tea. And remember, when you're at this shop, whether you're physically here or here through the Zoom, the magic of this shop, there's lots of different arenas of magic, but one of the magics of this shop is the scope, the range. You get a chance to experience tea in a way that most people have no clue, no opportunity, and they just don't know really exist. I salute your commentaries this morning. As usual, on the money. Chinese in China and the tea industry would have very much appreciated your commentary and said, yeah, they get it. God, they must be drinking some good tea. And your responsibilities this week are the same as every week in this era of high infection rates, new infection rates of COVID. You know, that's for other people. You leave that for the coffee drinkers to take care of. We who are grounded and so forth, we'll stick with this. No COVID for us. Look forward to seeing everybody next week. You take care now. Bye-bye.
Take care of them.